Standards project number 4, I bet you couldn't wait. All right, this one's called Book an A because you're going to be reading a novel, just like you've done for the other 2 at-home standards projects. But there's not going to be a lot of writing this time, and some of you are thinking, yes, no essay. I'm happy about that. And others you're thinking, what's going on? Because you're a little afraid, and yes, you're right. This one is going to be addressing some of the speaking and listening standards that we have, because you're going to have to give an oral presentation to your class. And it's all explained right here in this rubric. So let's take a look at it. The outside of your container, here's 3 examples here. They need to reflect somehow the theme of your novel, whether it's something to do with the character, what they go through, the setting, the plot, or the overall theme. Anything like that is just fine. So you see some examples: manila envelope, paper bag, plastic bag. If you have to use a shoebox, go ahead, but really decorate it on the outside so that it represents some parts of your book. This one was the K. Some people lost on an island, deserted island. They put a message in a bottle. Cute. Sounder. People live in a cabin. Cute. Treasure island. Treasure chest. So you get the idea. The more creative you make it, the better it's going to be for you. The more you use your imagination. But don't bring me an empty box or a blade of grass, by the way. So it says decorate the outside of the container so that with details that are appropriate to the book. We should know something about the book by examining the outside. Be sure your name, first and last, and the title of the book are labeled somewhere on the outside. And most people tend to put the author out there too, and that's fine. But it's not required, I guess. Inside. The inside of the container should include the following materials and activities pertaining to the book. You're going to write questions. There's going to be 10 of them. 5 of them must be level 1 on Costa's levels of questioning scale, which are simple questions that you could answer by looking at the book. What is the name of the protagonist's love interest? Something like that. You can find it on the page. Write it down. The other 5 questions, and by the way, you have to include the answers. Don't forget that. And then 5 of the other questions should be harder, level 2 or 3 questions with sample answers, because some of your level 3 questions might be like, what is the character motivation for the reason, something that is not in the book that you have to connect. We'll talk more about Costas in class. So you may not have a necessarily 100% correct answer, kind of like interpreting a poem, but as long as you have text support that backs it up, then it's an okay sample answer. So your questions are worth 100 points, and they must be typed. Does it say that in there? I think it says it down on the rubric, which we'll look at in just a second. Now you also have to have a vocabulary. Those are 10 words that are important to the story, or words that you don't know, words that you thought were interesting. And then you have to put each of those words in a meaningful sentence. And you can't say that whatever the word is. I give you an example of rupa. Rupa is a great word, or rupa is a vocabulary word, or I like the word rupa. You have to show meaning. They survived 30 days on the island by eating rupa every morning. I have no idea what rupa is. And you also have to have inside 5 items that depict the story in some way. So let me show you some examples here. This one from the K, it has a message in a bottle. And so rather cleverly, the student put their vocabulary and their questions on a scroll, not a little burn. Help! I'm lost at sea, kind of thing. So they have the vocabulary on one side and the questions on the other side. That's really cool. That's creative. You might get some extra credit points for doing something really cool like that. And they have items that represent the story inside. There's a submarine, because did they get shipwrecked from a submarine? I think so. There's a palm tree. There's sand. There's a few other things I'm not going to dig out right now. But as you are giving your presentation, you're going to take things. You don't pick this out. You're not going to bore the audience with your vocabulary and questions. That's for me only as your assessor. But you're going to show them the items. Well, this cork here represents the fact that they lived off a cork tree. That kind of thing. So there's one example. Let me put the message back in the bottle. And thank you. Bye. When you look at the sounder one, I want to show you this one. Oh, they asked me, by the way, on that one, if they could get away with not typing them because they couldn't, I guess, put that paper in a printer very easily. So I gave them permission because it was creative. But you just want to make sure when you're giving your vocabulary words that you've got them typed. You don't want to lose those points. And if you need to do it in class with Google Docs or whatever, that's fine. But you have to print it out. You can share it with me and I'll print it for you. But you got to print it out. Are the 5 items in this one? Hard to remember. Yeah, so when you're looking at the 5 items, they can be actual items. This is like barbed wire fence, I guess, so it's real wire. But if you can't find the actual item, you can draw pictures of it. This is an apple pie. I would have been really happy if they brought an actual apple pie, but they didn't. But a little thing like that. Or if you can't even find a little toy that represents it, it is quite acceptable and encouraged to just draw a picture of it. Here's a ship. The other one had a submarine. This person couldn't find a little ship. That's fine. That's all you can do. But just keep trying to be creative, and there's an exclamation spot, I guess. Try and be creative when you're making the pictures to make them look as nice as they can. All right, so during your presentation, you're going to talk about the item. This is my item, and these are the things on the inside, and here's the outside, as we've said. But you're also going to go over the literature elements that we have been talking about, the summary elements. And you're going to give the tag during your presentation, the protagonist, the conflict, 3 points of rising action, all that stuff. Some people have been able to do that while they were sharing their items. Okay, the cross in here represents the 3rd point of rising action, which is when. That's fine. Or you can go through and do them all in different ways. So just look over the rubric really carefully. Make sure you're getting yourself all the points that you can be getting as maximum as possible. There are some options for extra credit on this one, which is really good. It's a standards project, big part of the grade. Pump it up. Get whatever you can from it. During the presentation, you will be given 150 points if you include all the Book A requirements, which are the decorations on the outside, the 5 items on the inside, and if you talk about the 7 elements. Each of those 3 categories are 50 points each. And then you could lose points if your voice is not strong enough or hard to understand. Or if you don't keep audience eye contact throughout your presentation. I hope I've been doing it on this one. It's not easy to do with a little camera. And your presentation poise. No distracting movements. Playing with your hair. No hands in your pockets or any of that stuff. If you do those things too often, you can lose up to 20 points. All right? That is it.